Do you ever say to yourself, caring for my mother, father, husband, or wife is killing me? Stay with me for the caregiving chat of the day. We're going to talk about exhausting, frustrating, stressful caregiving situations, because this week I've heard from so many caregivers who are exhausted, who are at their wits' end, who want to run away from a caregiving situation because it is so extreme. Stay with me for the caregiving chat of the day. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. In this video post, there is a link to an article called The Love and Hate of Caregiving Relationships, because honestly, some days we do hate the person that we are caring for. And then, of course, what happens? We feel guilty as caregivers. How do you, as a caregiver, avoid feeling guilty about wanting to set a boundary, setting a limit, removing yourself from a caregiving situation that is either too stressful, too time-consuming, or abusive? Because some caregiving situations can be very abusive if the person that you are taking care of has a brain injury, Alzheimer's, dementia, a mental illness. It can be so difficult to remain in those care situations. So let's look at caregiving situations where you're just exhausted because you're doing so much. You may be working, caring for an elderly parent or spouse. You may be a younger person who is going to college, going to school, and you don't know what to do. The important thing is to look at setting boundaries and to do what I call blocking time. In a radio show a couple of weeks ago, I talked about a technique called the Pomodoro technique, which is focusing for 25 minutes on a task, taking a break, and then coming back for another 25 minutes. But if you're continually busy, how do you survive? You have to find time for yourself, and that may involve getting other family members involved or getting outside help. A lot of people are worried about money to pay for care. There are volunteers that you can find. I always recommend contacting the area agency on aging where you live, contact social services. If funds are low, contact the Medicaid department to find out what type of help is available there. And if you have a spouse or an elderly parent who was in the military, who served during wartime, there are actually caregiving benefits from that type of assistance. So when you get exhausted, I know that you don't want to add another task to your list, like calling aging services or social services or Medicaid or the VA, but that's how you get help. You've got to find a way to dig yourself out of the rut where you're doing everything. I also suggest asking your family members for help, even if they are not involved. You say, look, I can't do this anymore. This isn't an option for me. Mom or dad are going to have to move. I'm going to move out. It's time that everybody pitched in to help with the care situation because I can't do it anymore. The other thing is, if you are caring for somebody who has a mental illness and they're abusive, they could be yelling at you, screaming at you, throwing food. You would be surprised at the extreme situations that happen. It's not good for your physical and mental health. And some of you caregivers, I know you stay in these situations for years, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And by the end of that, when your loved one passes away, your life is challenging. It's difficult for you to get back in the workforce. If you've left work, you may have not taken care of your health. You may end up being the person who needs care. In any of these situations, whether you are exhausted or an abused caregiver, you've got to get yourself some help. Join a support group, talk to people, look for resources through community programs. There are so many community programs out there, but again, you have to do the research. Stay with me for the caregiving chat. We'll talk also about how to relieve yourself of guilt. One of the ways is to look at everything that you're doing. If you're exhausted or you're in an abusive care situation, make a list of everything that you're doing. I suggest this so that you can give it to your family members or give it to other people. When you look at that list, there's no way you should possibly feel guilty about everything that you're doing. You're amazing. It's surprising that you've even been able to stay in a care situation this long without getting seriously, seriously sick yourself. Show that list to your elderly parent. More than likely, if they're trying to make you feel guilty, they're not going to care, but at least it may make you feel a little bit better. Also, again, be very direct with your family members about the fact that you do need help, that this is not going to continue, and set an end date. Say, in 90 days, I want this care situation to change, and this is exactly how I want it to change. And then take steps to make it change. Don't give up. Don't feel like it's impossible. I know there are days that you probably want to just cry or run away. I understand that. I've been there too. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. There's a lot of helpful information there for caregivers and aging adults. I do a radio show every Wednesday night called The Caring Generation. Those radio shows have a lot of helpful information. And on Facebook, there are probably over 200 videos now because I do a Facebook Live almost every day of the week. Have a fabulous day today. God bless all of you caregivers. I know it's a tough job, and I'll see you again in another video.